Yo, folks, what's up? This is Adam here. I can't see the guy. Welcome to the Movie Vault. Many people are going to be surprised about me reviewing this movie because it was a franchise which I started reviewing last year. I made a review on Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, and I stopped there for a while and took a hiatus from it. And I don't know why. That was the reason why I stopped my reviewing the Nightmare on Elm Street films, because I love this franchise to death. Freddy Krueger's my favourite horror icon. You know, you got all your typical horror icons like Jason Voorhees, Leatherface, Art the Clown, Michael Myers, Chucky, etc. But I have to say, Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger is my number one favourite. You know, I've met several of the cast members. I've met Robert Englund twice. I've met Heather Langenkamp, who plays Nancy. I've met John Saxon, who is no longer with us. He passed away. He played Nancy's father. You know, I've also met Mark Patton, who plays Jesse Walsh from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. You know, I've also met Kim, you know, who played Lisa in Part 2. So I've met a memorable cast. You know, there's a lot of things I could say that reason why I'm a big fan of this movie. Check out the Freddy Krueger tattoo. A tattoo that I'm particularly a fan of. I've got the franchise right here on Blu-ray. And talking about this movie, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, the Dream Warriors, which came out in the year of 1987. I even got the poster there on my wall, if you can see there. Love that poster to death. It's very eye-catchy. Did a great job of the design. It was one of those movies that stood out in blockbusters where you'd walk by in the horror section and you come across all these VHS tapes. And then when we came to the VHS tapes of all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, that one really stood out. You know, where Freddy's like holding out his claw of all his victims, and you've got Nancy, you've got Joey, and all those other characters, the Dream Warriors, battling against Freddy, and it's a very eye-catchy poster. Okay. Now, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, I've just got done watching it moments ago, so I can do this review, and I must say, out of all the entries in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, I'd have to say this one, Part 3, has to be the most fun entry, you know, into the franchise. I mean, just briefly, I'll explain that Part 1 is probably the scariest. You've got Part 2, which people really shat on, you know, with Jesse being gay, screaming like a girl, and all that kind of thing. But I can defend that movie all day. I like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. Put it this way, I'd scream like a fucking girl if Freddy was ripping his fucking head off in front of me, exposing his brain, and stalking me and slashing my friend right in front of me. You know, I'd scream like a girl, but, you know, a lot of people really criticised the movie for what it was, and they did not want to make a Part 3. Now, Wes Craven came back as part of the writer in this movie. He was also some producer of this movie as well. I'm just looking up at it real quick. Yes, Wes Craven came back as a producer along with Robert Shane in this movie. It was directed by Chuck Russell, and the screenplay was also done by Wes Craven as well, and he even did parts of the story. But it was nice to see Wes Craven as part as one of the producers. What's so great about this movie is the cast. Heather Langenkamp comes back as Nancy. John Saxon comes back as Nancy's father. Robert Englund reprising his role as Freddy Krueger for the third time. And the Dream Warriors in this movie, I thought they did a great job of their roles as well. You know, I'll just go through some of the cast members right now. We've got Crane Wasson as Dr. Neil Gordon, Patricia Arquette as Kristen, Ken Sagoes as Roland, Rodney Eastman as Joey Crusoe, yeah, Jennifer Rubin as Tyron, Bradley Gregg as Philip, yeah, Ira Heiden as Will Saxon. You know, so we've got quite a memorable cast. And I think each one did a fantastic job of their role in this movie, because each one's got like a different performance task. And I thought everyone really worked well together in this movie. I mean, the film opens up pretty scary. I mean, we get the girl, Kristen. She's having a nightmare. She's in front of Freddy Krueger's house. The ghosts are there. You know, the ghost of the girl skipping the rope, and she enters Freddy's house. She tries to rescue a girl who she thinks is alive. You know, she's running through Freddy's house and Freddy's running after her. She looks down at the little girl. She ends up being a corpse. and she wakes up. And then she goes into the bathroom, and this is another thing I like about this movie, the creativity, because Freddy's claws comes out like the taps of the sink and slashes her wrist. So when her mother walks in, she seems to think that Kristen's trying to commit suicide. So she takes her to like this mental facility for all these other teenagers who are having sleep disorders and sleeping problems, people who've got mental problems, basically. So we get introduced to all the group of the Dream Warriors. Nancy Thompson comes back, played by Heather Langenkamp. Now, Nancy, I would say I preferred her role better in part one. I thought her acting was more stronger in part one, but still not putting down her performance in part three. I thought she did a good job of being like the leader of this group. She listens to each group member one by one, and she informs them that they're all dreaming about the same person, Freddy Krueger. And she goes into the story about Freddy, about what happened to him, that they're all the last surviving children of the Elm Street kids because their parents took a role in killing Freddy. Now he's come back in the dreams to try and kill all the children one by one and take their souls. And she also tells them that each one of them has got their own individual power for when they enter into the dream world, and they should use that power to fight off Freddy. And if they work together as a group, they've got a more better chance of believing and creating this teamwork of trying to defeat Freddy once and for all. I'm surprised Nancy didn't have a power in this movie. I thought it would be nice if she had some sort of power, to work with all these other Dream Warriors in this movie. But I guess she didn't need it because she was like the leader of the group. The age thing puzzled me because this is supposed to be like a couple of years later after the events of part one and part two. But she seems to be much more older in person, you know what I mean? But it's just an irrelevant thing. Robert Englund did a fantastic job of playing Freddy in this movie. I'd have to say Freddy Krueger in this movie. We start seeing like more of like a comedic side of Freddy Krueger, where in part one and part two he was like really dark, and of course I think he did I thought his nature in Wes Craven's New Nightmare was darker as well. But this is like more of like a level of him being dark / comedic, and that's last time we see that balance, because in part 4, part 5, etc., Freddy's more comedic, but this is where we see this nature of Freddy change a bit in his personality, and I thought Robert Englund did a great job. And many of horror fanatics would agree with me when I say that Robert Englund does a fantastic job of being scary, he does a fantastic job of being funny. I've met Robert Englund twice, and he's the most down-to-earth guy I've ever met. He's signed plenty of merchandise which I own, and he's just a fantastic person to meet. So I really do recommend meeting Robert Englund, but also for that matter, I really recommend people to meet Heather Langenkamp. She was a very sweet lady. I recommend John Saxon, but he's now passed away. Mark Patton, who played Jesse Walsh, another great guy to meet. And even he says he likes this movie, Dream Warriors, just as much as part 2 as Freddy's Revenge. He says he likes Freddy's Revenge more because he was in it, and so was Kim, but he says he took a shine to the third movie with the music and the way it was really well done and portrayed. The kills in this movie were really great. In fact, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 has my favourite kill, and that was the death of Philip. Because Philip's one of the kids where he makes these puppets, and Freddy, slashes his wrists, and then he guides Philip like through the mental hospital, like as if he's sleepwalking, like a puppet, and his veins are like hanging from the ceiling, and then Robert Englund's like using him as like this fucking puppet to go into the tower. The kids are screaming, Philip, don't do it! It's making him as though he's committing suicide. And then when Freddy Krueger like guides him to the edge of the tower ledge, he like cuts the strings and laughs hysterically as Philip falls to his death. And I love that scene. I've got to say it's my most favourite horror scene. It was gory, it was suspenseful, and it was very gruesome as well. Although you did not see Philip's body hit the ground, you didn't really need to see that. Just the torturing alone of him being led to his death was like really gruesome enough, and I thought it really worked. I thought it was a fantastic kill scene. But like I say, the group of these characters, the Dream Warriors, they like work together. The kid in the wheelchair, in his world, he has the ability to stand up out of his wheelchair. Like, I'm the Dream Master. He tries to stops Freddy from using his power, but he ends up getting killed because Freddy's raising him in the air and he stabs the kid in the stomach. What else we got that girl, I can't remember her name. Tyrell was her name. The one that can be the punk rock with those two knives, but she has a history of drug problems. And then Freddy, while she's battling Freddy injects her with the drugs. You know, Freddy getting high. That was like showing him like that is his amusement side. You know, he's injecting with the drugs, and he's like going, you know, getting fucking high at the same time while he's injecting him with the drugs. Again, the not only the creativity, but also the way they did several scenes in this movie was very memorable. I mean, you remember the giant snake? I really like the effects of that snake as well, like the giant snake, or I should say the giant dick. You know, I mean, there's a giant Freddy dick. But then it was more maniacal. It was more harder to make. It's not like the CGI snake they had in Freddy vs. Jason. You know, with the getting high drug scene. It was like a very big practical effect, and it was really well done with the manacle and all that. Like Freddy's got the girls in his mouth, he's trying to swallow them. You know, Kristen and Nancy worked really well together. I mean, I suppose one thing that I was a little bit disappointed off was that Nancy got killed off. You know, spoiler. If you've not seen this movie, I think everyone's seen this movie by now. But Nancy does get killed off, along with her father, John Saxon's character, you know, who used to be a sheriff, but he's now a security guard and an alcoholic. Thanks to Freddy, he's lost everything. And there's a scene like in the, you know, in the car scrapyard where he's battling Freddy and he ends up getting stabbed through the back and coming out through the stomach. Because he reveals to this guy where Freddy's bones are buried. It's buried in the yard, you know, and that's the way to stop Freddy from becoming stronger and becoming more immortal by dealing with the bones that are buried in the yard, you know. So, like I say, a very creative, very fun entry, you know. The movie explains everything just by the poster. I mean, I've already mentioned the poster. You know, but we also get a little bit of background story about who Freddy was. You know, there's a scene in the tower where the nun's explaining that Freddy was the bastard son of 1,000 maniacs, because Amanda Kruger was locked in the tower with all those maniacs and she ended up getting raped. And Freddy was the offspring of those 1,000 maniacs. Little do we know it is the nun, Amanda Kruger. You know. But, like, cast-wise, I mean, I thought all of them did a fantastic job working together to try to stop Freddy. I mean, the creativity was there, the suspense was there. I love the idea about how they used Dreamworld as an excuse for them to have all these powers to go into the Dreamworld to try and battle Freddy Krueger. You know, you could tell Robert Englund was having a lot of fun in his role in this third one. Like I say, there was a wacky comedic side of him, and like you could tell he was having a good time being the villain in this movie. So he was having a blast. You know, but like I say, I saw it on Blu-ray. I've got it on this Blu-ray edition right here, and in terms of commentary, in this edition there's not much commentary, but there is some great commentary for Part 3. I mean, I've seen a better one online, you know, where they're all sitting around in the circle, some cast members, and they're talking about the movie. Wes Craven's talking about it, and several other cast members about the making of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. And it's a very interesting must-see about how the film came about, how they thought this film wasn't going to be a success due to the events of Part 2, how that was a letdown at the box office, but I think Wes Craven saved it, you know, bringing it back, and for what the film was, it was a big hit, Part 3. Everyone loved it. You know, and I think there's a lot of things in this movie that made the movie get saved, basically. Because I did spawn more sequels after this one. So, Part 3 is definitely going to be the most fun one. I don't know what I like more out of Part 1 and Part 3. Part 1's the scariest. Part 3 is the most fun. You know, because not only do I have this poster right here of Part 3, I also have the poster of Part 1 in another room. You know, so I've got my own different reasons for liking all the other different entries. of this movie. So, was Heather Langenkamp's character needing to be killed off? Nancy's? I have no idea, but she does come back for Wes Craven's new Nightmare. So does all the original cast. But that's another review for another day. So yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. I just got done watching it months ago, like I said before this review, and it was a fantastic must-watch. A definite 80s movie. You can feel it's an 80s movie, with the music playing and the grainy background and all the effects of all the colours of all the magic that was used in the dream worlds and all that kind of thing. So it was it was a really nice feel. It was a real nice feel. But I watched it on Blu-ray, like I say. I'd say watch it on VHS, VHS, because it's, with the graininess and the fuzziness, it really has a good effect to it, So I would like to get this movie on VHS for that particular reason, So that's my review, everybody, from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. I really like it. The trilogy, definitely the best. It kind of goes downhill a little bit for me in some certain entries, but, I'll get to that in different reviews. I mean, Part 4 is going to come next. I don't know when I'll do that review, but bear with me. But to that one person who suggested me to do Nightmare on Street Part 3, thank you. I'm not going to announce who it is just in case he doesn't want his name public. But if you want to shout out, let me know in the future. And that's my review for Nightmare on Street Part 3, everybody. Please check it out. This is a great box set. Really love it. Okay, thanks everyone. Peace out.